Let's start today and talk about asset allocation. I'm going to show you my asset allocation as of a few months ago. This is not necessarily the right asset allocation for anybody in particular, but the reason that this is so important is that more than anything else, this is what's going to determine, are you going to panic when the market is down? And are you going to have the right level of exposure based on your risk tolerance? And so I'm not going to talk at all about individual stocks or anything like that in this particular segment. We're going to talk about asset allocation. And, when I've talked before about, oh, I have around 3% in crypto, where people say, oh, well, aren't you worried about losing it all? No, because I'm limiting it to only about 3% of my assets. So even if they go to zero, I've only lost 3%. And this is why asset allocation is so key. Asset allocation also allows you to figure out what are my likely returns based on historical averages, whereas if you own 5 stocks, you really can't do that. So this is like one of the most important things. I'm simplifying this by not including any sort of like what I would call personal assets. So like I'm not including any cars in this. Yes, at the time that this happened, I had a car that I owned and didn't lease. Should it be on here? Yeah, maybe, but it's not part of an investment strategy. I don't consider cars part of an investment strategy. So I'm not including that. So let's get right into it. And excuse my horrible circle here. So the biggest chunk of this, and this is meant to be like slightly more than 50%. In fact, this is, and let's see if I can actually get this thing to work correctly. Let's see here. Here we go. This is 53%. 53% of my assets were in stocks as of a few months ago. Now you might say, well, how much of this was in individual stocks versus index funds, and how much in an IRA versus a 401k? We're not dealing with that right now. This is just asset allocation. And overall, 53% of my assets at this point were in stocks. The next biggest component, and this top left quadrant here, it's meant to be just a little under a quarter. 24% is in real estate. And this is almost completely actual real estate. There are other ways to own real estate, like through something called the Real Estate Investment Trust, and there are many other ways. I have a little bit of what are called REITs, those real estate investment trusts that are part of this, but almost none. So 53% stocks, 24% in real estate. The next biggest thing for me was bonds. And that is, again, not drawn to scale. I am about 11% in bonds. And this is, we'll talk a little bit about bond exposure in a bit, and there's different numbers that are right for different people. I also have an amount of cash, 8%, that some people find to be too much and some people say is not enough, depending on what's going on. Let's see if I can write that a little bit better. It's actually shockingly difficult to write on this thing. 8% in cash. And what is that? That's 77, 88, 96. Yeah, and that leaves 4. I'm rounding. It was actually more like 3.5, but 4% in crypto. Okay, that's the totality of my picture. Let me see if I can clean that up a little bit as well. Crypto. Very good. So that is the total of how we get to 100%. Now, what happens over time when these numbers shift? Like, for an example, if we imagine that this 100%, let's call it a $100,000 portfolio. If initially I go in with my 3% in crypto, we're talking about $3,000. Very simple. Imagine that nothing else changes. I keep contributing monthly in these proportions, but let's say that the crypto doubles to $6,000. Okay, so now the portfolio has gone from being worth $100,000 to $106,000, of which the crypto is now 6K. This has moved my asset allocation in crypto from 3% to 5, let's just call it 5.5% to make it easy. It's not, it might even make it easier this is not the right number. Let's just call it 6% to make the math easy. I now have too much crypto, right? My target, let's imagine, is, and I used 4% even though it was 3, so that's confusing. Let's imagine my target was the 3, but it's gone all the way up to 6. How do we get that back in line? Well, that's called rebalancing. And there's a bunch of different ways that this can be done. One way is that if you're contributing monthly to these assets, if your crypto gets overexposed, where you're at 6%, you would sell some of this crypto to bring the number back down. You could sell some portion of your crypto. We would say, well, what's 3% on 106K? Well, it's, what is that, $3,200 or something? The math doesn't really matter. So I've got to sell back down to this amount of crypto and then take the other amount that's left, the 2,800 or whatever, and distribute it to all of those other asset classes. That's one way to rebalance. And some people would rebalance monthly, although it's very rare. Some people would rebalance quarterly. Some people every 6 months of the year. With something as volatile as crypto, you might find yourself rebalancing more frequently. The other way to get your asset allocation back in balance would be, okay, well, if normally I'm contributing in this way on a monthly basis, I can, going forward, not buy any crypto, but contribute a little extra, for example, to my stocks, bonds, cash, and real estate. Real estate, in some people's cases, means paying a little more on your mortgage in order to put the numbers back in line to your asset allocation. Also important to remember that this is a target. You're rarely going to be exactly there. Like, for example, my real goal is not for my stocks to be 53%. It's really more like 50. Because at the time at which I took this picture, stocks had gone up relative to some of my other assets. The numbers had gone up to gone up from 50 to 53%. It's not really urgent. It's not a huge deal. It's still mostly within my financial picture. Now, one other aspect of this that I will mention. What is the deal with the stocks themselves? How are the stocks distributed? So this is just the part that's my stocks. There's basically 4 categories that I have. It's U.S. index funds, bonds, what I call individual stocks, and international stocks. Okay? This is of the 53% that is in stocks, right? That's all we're talking about right now. What is my distribution? About 10% of that is in individual stocks. So 10% of 53%. So only about 5% of my assets are in individual stocks. I then have something like, bonds isn't even part of this because I have bonds broken out separately. 10% of my stocks are in individual stocks. About 28% of my stocks are in international stock indexes. That's 38. And that leaves 62% in simple US index funds. We'll do a segment on timing the market. I don't think I can time the market. Remember, March of 2020, COVID starts, market collapses. Sky is falling. Bail, short everything. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So I said, you know what? I'll just keep buying the way I do. Within 6 weeks, the numbers had recovered greatly. People who sat on the sidelines lost out on not only dividends, but also appreciation because they expected something that didn't happen. I don't even pretend to know. I just maintain my asset allocation and don't try to time the market. And the best way to do that is through index funds. There is some debate as to whether you really need international index funds. And the reason that is often given is if you take a lot of the companies in US indices, companies like General Electric or, Facebook, a lot of these companies do business globally. So some argue you don't really need international stock funds because you're getting international exposure over here through a lot of these US companies. That's fine. This is just a framework, and those are decisions you can make. The priorities have to be, again, if we were to kind of summarize it all, understand your allocation relative to what it means for risk, right? If I only have 3%, or in this case, it was 4% in crypto, if crypto goes to 0, I still have 96% of my assets. That's a risk I'm willing to take for an asset class that has given me 20,000% returns over the last 10 years or whatever the case it's been. That's acceptable to me. On stocks, you have to look differently. There have been, 30% drawdowns on stocks before. What would it mean to my portfolio? Well, if stocks are 53% of my portfolio and there's a 30% drawdown, then that means I'm losing 15%. Is that tolerable? And for how long? And how likely is it? This is why asset allocation matters. And this is why I consider that this is really where you're kind of figuring out your financial picture. So allocation and risk, fees, and no timing. These are the most important things. We've talked a lot about this one. We're going to deal with 2 and 3 in a different segment.